Never would I have imagined that a malfunctioning compass would guide me to this pivotal moment, caught between two women while clutching a loaded firearm. I'm Jace Carver, pushing 38, making my living as a geological surveyor in a remote stretch of Montana. My days revolve around charting Earth formations for a resource firm near the Rockies, where bitter winds howl and paths seem to stretch into infinity. I carved out this existence alongside Mara, my partner of a decade, a brilliant 35-year-old environmental data analyst working for the same company. We once explored those trails in tandem, her giggles echoing as I stumbled over exposed roots, while I feigned expertise about every mountain crest. That was before the subtle erosion of our connection, as imperceptible as morning frost forming on window panes. Earlier today, I found myself in an antiseptic medical facility where hope dissolves in the sharp scent of disinfectant. The physician was brutally honest: advanced liver cancer with perhaps a handful of months remaining. My fingers trembled against the chair's surface as the diagnosis settled like heavy sediment. I desperately needed Mara's steadying presence. I reached for my phone, dialed her work number. Silence. Tried her mobile. Nothing but a recorded message. She'd mentioned earlier about being overwhelmed with an urgent project at the Denver office. Understandable, I thought. She's always been the dependable one. Yet something unsettling lingered, an intuition I couldn't dismiss. I emerged into the parking area, the harsh wind stinging my face, gazing at the peaks I'd once triumphantly scaled. They seemed more distant than ever before. Let me pause this unfolding narrative briefly. Where are you tuning in from? Share your location in the comments. Perhaps you're a fellow wilderness dweller, or maybe you're nestled in urban chaos. If this tale has captured your attention, don't forget to subscribe. It truly matters to us who share these stories. Now, let's resume, because the plot thickens considerably. I steered homeward, my vehicle juddering across the rough terrain, my thoughts scattered like wind-blown leaves. Mara's physical absence wasn't unusual. We'd been growing apart for seasons, possibly years. She'd immerse herself in work projects. I'd lose myself in topographical studies, meeting only for wordless evening meals. But today's news couldn't wait. Back home, I paced restlessly through the kitchen, surrounded by deafening quiet. Her computer remained open on the counter, still logged into our joint company email from a springtime project. After a moment's hesitation, I clicked through. Call it gut feeling, call it desperate need. That's when I discovered it. Correspondence with Lila Hensley, a 32-year-old field cartographer who accompanied Mara on those extended business trips. The messages weren't discussing professional matters. Lila's most recent message struck me with devastating force. A request to rendezvous at Old Timber Bar, claiming possession of my long-lost compass, the one with the damaged needle. She emphasized keeping me in the dark. My heart nearly stopped. This wasn't just any ordinary compass. It held profound significance. I presented it to Mara during my proposal, carefully etching my initials into its brass surface. She'd claimed it disappeared during a work assignment 2 years ago, even shedding tears over its loss. Now, it was in Lila's possession, and what was the purpose behind Mara's clandestine Denver trip with her? My stomach churned, momentarily overshadowing thoughts of my illness. I snatched my keys, rushed to the storage shed, and retrieved my father's hunting pistol from its secure box. The weapon felt weighty, frigid, decisive. While I had no immediate plans for its use, I refused to enter this situation unprepared. The engine thundered as I accelerated away, wheels throwing Earth skyward. The journey to Denver would take 4 hours, providing ample time for contemplation. As the sun descended, it painted the heavens in crimson hues, while the road ahead stretched into darkness. Questions tormented me. Was Mara unfaithful? Was Lila a casual affair? Or perhaps something more significant? The compass haunted my thoughts, once a symbol of our love, now mockingly held by another. I imagined them sharing drinks, Mara's eyes sparkling in that familiar way they once did for me. My grip tightened on the steering wheel. Though uncertain what awaited at Old Timber, one thing was clear. Truth doesn't lurk in darkness. I'd had enough of speculation. The pistol rested beside me, catching the dashboard's glow, silently promising resolution, whatever form it might take. The route to Denver extended endlessly beneath a starless expanse. My vehicle's steady rumble provided a backdrop to my tumultuous thoughts. The weapon lay motionless beside me, its presence a stark reminder of potential confrontation. Those discovered emails, particularly Lila's words about the compass, cut deeper than any medical verdict. Mara hadn't merely deceived me about Denver. She'd surrendered a piece of our history to another. I pressed the accelerator harder, pushing past 80. I wasn't racing to salvage anything now. I was pursuing truth, regardless of consequences. The asphalt streaked beneath me, each mile marker a silent countdown to confrontation. I'd accepted Mara's explanations without question. Those endless nights at the research site, the frequent weekend expeditions for samples. She'd return with earth-stained fingernails and an exhausted smile, and I'd simply nod. Now, every recollection felt tainted with deception. Had those moments been spent with Lila instead, both of them mocking my naive trust as I studied geological maps in solitude? My fingers clenched the steering wheel until joints cracked. The malignant mass in my side throbbed persistently, a familiar discomfort I pushed aside. Physical agony was an old companion. Treachery was the fresh demon haunting me. I made a single stop at a service station, its fluorescent glow a solitary beacon in the vast darkness. The attendant, sporting an adolescent attempt at facial hair, barely acknowledged me as I purchased coffee and cigarettes. I'd abandoned smoking when Mara convinced me years ago, but tonight demanded something destructive. Standing beside the fuel pump, I ignited one, the initial inhalation harsh and acrid. The cold night air stung my cheeks as I accessed the company email again, delving deeper. Another message from Lila, sent just 7 days prior. Can't wait for our next private moment. That mountain expedition last month was merely the beginning. My insides twisted violently. The mountain survey, Mara had claimed it was an independent assignment, a brief geological assessment. I'd gifted her a personalized thermos for the trip, her initials carefully etched. Had Lila's lips touched it too? Returning to the vehicle, I discarded the cigarette, watching its ember briefly illuminate the darkness before vanishing. While the emails weren't conclusive evidence, they ignited suspicion. I envisioned Lila, lean, athletic, wearing that smug smile I'd witnessed at work gatherings. She'd always orbited around Mara, sharing private jokes I never understood. I dismissed it as professional camaraderie. Now it seemed like calculated deception. But the compass revelation cut deepest. Mara's apparent devastation at its loss had been convincing. If Lila possessed it, Mara had willingly surrendered it. Why? What other betrayals lay hidden? The highway descended into a valley, where dense fog crept low across the pavement. My headlights barely penetrated the thick gray shroud. I reduced my speed, not from prudence, but because my trembling hands could barely control the wheel. A road sign materialized, Denver 62 miles, near enough to sense the impending confrontation. I questioned my next moves. Would I brandish the weapon like some desperate vigilante, demanding explanations? A part of me yearned to retreat, to surrender to my bed, and let the disease claim me peacefully. But the compass wouldn't permit such cowardice. It represented more than mere metal and glass. It embodied that snow-covered moment when Mara's acceptance rang through the evergreens. Lila had no right to taint that memory. A startled deer leaped across my path, its eyes gleaming in the headlights. I jerked the wheel, tires squealing as the gun clattered to the floorboard. My heart thundered against my chest while I guided the vehicle onto the shoulder, gravel crackling beneath. I remained still, catching my breath, as the fog pressed against the windows like an unwelcome intruder. Then came the subtle vibration of my phone. Mara's message appeared. "Hey, still at the office. Might crash here tonight. Love you." I stared at the illuminated falsehood. She wasn't working late. She was with Lila, likely sharing drinks at Old Timber, passing my compass between them like some meaningless trinket. "Love you." The words felt poisonous. I retrieved the weapon, verifying the ammunition, 6 bullets exceeding my requirements. My reflection in the rearview mirror revealed a haunting sight. Gaunt features, shadowed eyes, already resembling death. While cancer consumed my body, this betrayal devoured my soul. I restarted the truck, its engine sputtering as if channeling my fury. The fog intensified, headlights refracting off the dense mist, and momentarily, I imagined figures dancing within, spectral forms of Mara and Lila, their laughter fading into nothingness. Perhaps it was the nicotine, the physical torment, or encroaching insanity. It didn't matter. I was drawing near. The winding road to Denver snaked through treacherous foothills, its path growing narrower and steeper. A massive truck thundered past, blasting its horn, nearly catching my vehicle's rear end. "Stay alert, Jace. A crash now would derail everything," rob me of seeing her expression. Old Timber wasn't anything special, just a local watering hole where geological surveyors shared tales over bargain brews. Mara had always claimed to be a light drinker. Another deception? My thoughts conjured vivid scenes, her body angled toward Lila's, their fingers meeting, my compass catching the bar's dim light. Were they just talking, or had they ventured into territory I couldn't forgive? The firearm rested heavily in my lap, like a silent arbiter. The city's boundary emerged as the fog dissipated, street lamps awakening like drowsy sentinels. Old Timber squatted among the warehouses, a weathered brick structure with a failing neon sign. After parking, I cut the engine and sat motionless, the silence deafening. My phone vibrated again, likely Mara with another fabrication. I ignored it, instead securing the gun inside my jacket, its steel chilling my chest. Whatever awaited me inside, I confronted directly. The compass had guided me here, damaged or whole. Time to discover its true direction. The bar's neon sign hummed weakly overhead, half dark, casting an eerie light across the parking area. Leaving the truck, my footsteps crunched on gravel, the weapon pressing against my side. The air carried the mingled scents of stale beer and vehicle fumes, heavy with conversation drifting from within. My illness stabbed at my side, but I suppressed the pain. This transcended physical suffering. This was about what lay beyond that entrance. I stretched my numbing fingers in the biting air and stepped inside. The interior swam with smoke and shadows, while country music blared from a corner jukebox. Oil workers and laborers packed the counter, their voices merging into a constant rumble. My gaze cut through the chaos until I found them, Mara and Lila, secluded in a back booth. The weak wall light caught Mara's auburn hair as she leaned toward Lila. My chest constricted. Between them lay the compass, its brass surface dulled, the needle broken off like shattered trust. They hadn't noticed me yet. I moved carefully, navigating past a patron in dirty flannel, my hand finding the gun beneath my jacket. I halted several paces from the booth, near enough to catch Lila's soft laughter above the ambient noise. She inclined forward, her lean frame at ease, murmuring something that brought a smile to Mara's face, one I hadn't witnessed since winter. My veins filled with frost. The compass caught the light as Lila slid it toward Mara, her fingertips lingering on its surface. That was my signature gesture. I surged forward, extracted the pistol from my jacket, and slammed it onto the table with a resonant thud. The sound shattered their private moment. Mara's gaze shot upward, eyes wide and ashen, her jaw slackening. Lila went rigid, her hand suspended midway to her drink. I kept my tone controlled, even more frigid than the weapon before me. I believe you both have some explaining to do. The color fled from Mara's face, her mouth forming silent words. Lila regained composure quicker, easing back with artificial nonchalance, her dark eyes darting to the firearm. Hey, Jace, take it easy. Let's keep things rational. She elevated her palms slightly, treating me like some startled creature. I remained unmoved. Tell me about the compass, I demanded. Now, Mara finally spoke, her voice tremulous and faint. Jace, why are you here? How did you? I interrupted her. Stop pretending. You claimed you were working. I read the messages. I know about her. I gestured toward Lila, whose composed facade began cracking. Mara's fingers intertwined anxiously, nails biting into flesh. You're misunderstanding. We're just friends. My laugh emerged harsh and caustic, drawing nearby glances. Friends don't secretly pass around my compass. Friends don't deceive about their whereabouts. Level with me, Mara, or things turn nasty. Lila interjected, her voice now edged. Listen, I discovered it mixed with my equipment after work. Thought she should have it back. Simple as that. I fixed her with a stare, seeing through the transparent deception. Found it? After Mara told me it was lost forever? That's your story. My hand hovered above the pistol, not touching but close enough to unnerve them. The bar's clamor receded, as if reality contracted to this single booth. Mara's eyes flicked between the weapon and me, beseeching. Jace, please, remove that. We can discuss this. Talk, I commanded. Fine. Start by explaining why you're here with her instead of at home with me. Explain why I had to discover from a mere email that my wife harbors secrets. Her breath caught audibly, and she averted her gaze, guilt etched across her features. Lila leaned in, her voice barely above a whisper. You're unwell, aren't you? She mentioned you've been different lately. Perhaps you're imagining things. My jaw tightened involuntarily. She knew about my condition? Mara had revealed that too? I turned to face her, my voice rough like sandpaper. You told her about my terminal illness? What other intimate details did you share, Mara? Our entire existence? She shook her head as tears began forming in her eyes. It's not what you think. I was concerned about you. Lila's been helping me handle it. I let out a derisive laugh. Handle it? Is that what this is? Processing your feelings over drinks while flaunting my compass? Lila interrupted, her tone more aggressive now. Stand down, Jace. You're frightening her. You can't comprehend what she's endured. I met her gaze, tension crackling between us. I can't comprehend. I'm the one with a limited time left, while she's here with you. Enlighten me about what I don't understand, Lila. Explain why she's choosing your company over mine. The bar fell silent momentarily, broken by a drunk patron stumbling nearby. Mara dried her eyes, her voice unsteady. I'm not choosing anyone. I love you, Jace. I just needed space. Things have been difficult. Difficult. I leaned closer, the weapon still between us. Difficult is receiving a terminal diagnosis. Difficult is calling your spouse repeatedly without response. You don't get to label this difficult. Lila half rose, her chair scraping harshly. That's enough. Want the truth? We've grown close. That's all. No infidelity, no elaborate scheme. Just two people who connected. Sit down, I barked. You don't dictate when it's enough. Movement caught my peripheral vision, the bearded bartender approaching, watching us intently. Any problems here? He questioned gruffly. Without turning, I maintained my focus on them. No problems. Private family matter. He hesitated before retreating, but his attention lingered. Mara reached for my hand, her fingers ice cold. Jace, I promise, you're misinterpreting everything. I withdrew, her touch more painful than my illness. Then explain it. Why does she have my compass? Why are you lying to my face? She hesitated, and Lila stepped in, voice tense. Because she wanted to protect you. You're unraveling, and she's terrified. Terrified, I echoed, the word tasting bitter. Terrified enough to seek refuge with you? I lifted the gun with measured precision, not to threaten, just to hold. Its weight felt reassuring, like it could extract the truth. Mara released a fragile, broken gasp. Jay, stop. I'm pleading with you. I studied her intently. This woman who'd shared my life, now an unfamiliar figure across a battle-scarred table. Lila remained motionless. Her earlier confidence evaporated, eyes fixed on the weapon. I had no intention to fire. I wasn't even certain I could. But I needed more than these evasive responses. A glass shattered nearby, breaking the standoff. I lowered the weapon, sliding it back into my jacket, but maintaining my grip. One opportunity, I declared. Reveal everything, duration, extent, complete truth. Otherwise, I leave permanently. Mara wept silently, tears streaming down. Lila parted her lips, then hesitated, as if her rehearsed lines had vanished. The compass lay between us, silent and useless, its damaged needle directionless. I waited as the bar's ambient noise swelled around us, but only heard my thundering heartbeat. Whatever truth emerged, I'd force them to voice it, even if it hastened my end. I departed Old Timber with bitterness coating my throat, leaving the compass on their table, Mara's weeping fading behind me. I didn't stay for their complete confession. Their silence spoke volumes. The gun remained in my jacket, an used but significant, an inescapable presence. Starting my truck, its engine sputtering alive, I fled Denver, watching city lights diminish in my mirror. Home wasn't my destination. That place now held only painful memories I couldn't face. Instead, I headed northward toward Yellowstone, the destination Mara and I had always dreamed of conquering together. Solitude seemed fitting now. The highway ascended into darkness, snaking through dense pine forests, the atmosphere growing sharp and sparse. My side burned, each breath bringing searing pain, but I lowered the window, letting the bitter cold keep me alert. I'd witnessed Mara's terror, the crack in Lila's confident facade, yet nothing was resolved. They'd grown close. That's all they confess. Close enough to share my compass, close enough to deceive. My thoughts spiraled endlessly. Had they shared intimate moments beneath mountain shadows? Shared sleeping quarters while I remained home, mapping geological formations? The cancer was claiming my body, certainly, but this betrayal was a more torturous demise. I crossed into Wyoming as midnight struck, the vast highway deserted save for the occasional semi-truck thundering past. A weathered sign emerged. Yellowstone 48 miles ahead. My phone vibrated in the cup holder. Mara reaching out again, likely with another string of justifications. I turned it face down, pressing onward. The park's entrance materialized, dark and unstaffed at this hour, allowing me to glide through unchallenged. I had no destination in mind, just an overwhelming urge to dissolve into something vaster than my current turmoil. The vehicle jolted onto a rough path near Mammoth Hot Springs, where ethereal steam rose from the earth, illuminated by my headlights. I killed the engine, grabbed my gear, and emerged into the sulphurous air that assaulted my nostrils. The wilderness pulsed with life, owls calling softly, wind whispering through pine needles. I made my way toward a campsite I'd noticed, the weapon still pressed against me, now more security blanket than threat. That's when I spotted them. Two silhouettes beside a campfire, their shadows dancing across canvas walls. I stopped dead, my body tensing, half expecting to find Mara and Lila emerging from the darkness. Instead, I discovered Owen and Tessa, university students from Bozeman, pursuing geology as I had years ago. They beckoned me over, their cheerful voices unaware of the chaos I carried. "Come on over," Owen shouted, tossing fresh wood onto the flames. He was tall and gangly with unruly hair, while Tessa, petite and dotted with freckles, extended a marshmallow-laden stick. After a moment's pause, I joined them, letting the fire's warmth seep into my weary frame. "You seem exhausted," she observed, noting my hunched posture. "Bad day." I managed a weak smile. "Something like that." They didn't pry, simply offered a frosty beer from their cooler, the aluminum chilling my fingers. We discussed geology, volcanic formations, thermal features, and briefly I forgot about the bar, the weapon, the deception. The peace proved fleeting. As sparks crackled upward, Owen inquired about my solitary presence. I deflected, claiming I needed space, but Tessa's perceptive gaze lingered. She gestured toward my pack, where the gun's shape pressed against the fabric. "Doing some hunting?" Her words seemed casual, but carried weight. I shifted, concealing it. "Just precautionary," I said. "Bears, you know." Owen chuckled, but Tessa remained skeptical. She inched closer, lowering her voice. "Last summer, saw someone carrying similar hardware. Turned out he was fleeing something. Are you running too?" My heart raced. She couldn't begin to understand. I steered the conversation toward their academics, and they readily followed, sharing stories of field expeditions and challenging instructors. The campfire dwindled to crimson embers, and exhaustion began seeping into my bones. Owen stretched lazily, mentioning he'd turn in soon, but gestured toward their camping area. "Crash here, buddy. You look like you could use the rest." I nodded gratefully, rolling out my sleeping bag several feet away, gazing up at the star-studded sky through towering pines. My phone vibrated again, Mara's persistent attempts. I switched it off, embracing the momentary respite. Rest eluded me. The earth beneath felt unyielding, my side throbbing persistently, but it was the wilderness sounds that kept me alert. Leaves rustling, branches cracking. I bolted upright, fingers finding the weapon, peering into the darkness. Something lurked nearby, too large for a fox, too stealthy for a bear. My throat constricted. Had they tracked me? Had Mara and Lila somehow followed the vehicle? The dying firelight caught something reflective, perhaps metal or watching eyes. I rose, weapon drawn, whispering, "Who's there?" Only the taunting wind responded. The mysterious form disappeared into the forest, and I collapsed back down, pulse racing. Probably imagination, a deer, shadows playing tricks. Yet uncertainty lingered. What if they pursued me to conclude this, to confront or battle or worse? I clutched the weapon tighter, its metal now warm against my palm. Owen's gentle snores and Tessa's quiet form in the tent reminded me of their undisturbed slumber, and I envied their tranquility. I was different, a fugitive, not from justice, not yet, but from a life that no longer felt mine. Daybreak emerged, sluggish and ashen, as the park stirred with avian melodies and distant geothermal rumblings. I gathered my belongings silently, leaving a brief note for the children: appreciate the campfire, before venturing deeper into the wilderness, my firearm a reassuring presence against my hip. Yellowstone sprawled endlessly before me, a labyrinth of vapor and earth where I could vanish. Mara's unread message from yesterday haunted my thoughts, its urgency palpable. "Where have you gone?" I'm concerned. That ship had sailed. Perhaps we'd meet again, but not yet. This moment belonged to me. Just me and the untamed wilderness, along with whatever mysteries it concealed. A 3-day sojourn in Yellowstone failed to diminish either pain, the physical one in my side or the emotional one in my heart. The wilderness had offered breathing room, but reality remained inescapable. I returned to Montana beneath overcast skies, my vehicle's steady drone matching my determination. I'd abandoned Mara and Lila to their devices in Denver, but perpetual hiding wasn't an option. The pistol rested in the glove compartment now, a quiet companion whose presence I felt without touching. My residence awaited, and whatever remained of it, I would confront directly. I arrived home as twilight fell, The house shrouded in darkness, save for a dim light dancing in the front window. Mara's car was present, carelessly parked, alongside an unfamiliar polished silver Jeep. My stomach clenched. Killing the engine, I grabbed my backpack and emerged, the atmosphere heavy with pine scent and something acrid, perhaps anxiety, seeping from within. The main entrance stood unlocked, groaning as I entered. The voices reached me first, harsh and rapid, piercing the silence. Mara's, followed by Lila's. Their heated discussion masked my footsteps on the wooden floor. I crept along the hallway, the absent pistol's phantom weight lingering in my grip. The living room lay ahead, revealing them both. Mara restlessly moving about, her hair disheveled. Lila seated defensively on the sofa, arms folded. An open, half-consumed bourbon bottle adorned the coffee table, surrounded by scattered glasses like silent witnesses. Mara's voice faltered mid-phrase. "You can't continue this behavior, Lila. I've seen the messages." "Who is she?" Lila responded, maintaining composure though strained. "You're being irrational. It's professional, just like our situation." I remained motionless in the entrance, unnoticed, my shadow extending across the floor. "Work," Mara snapped. "Like us. You think I'm blind?" She hurled her phone at Lila, who caught it reflexively, her jaw clenched. I stepped forward then, my voice gravelly and low. "Looks like I'm interrupting." They both startled, Mara whirling to face me, Lila's gaze sharpening. "Jace," Mara whispered, her expression a blend of solace and fear. "Where have you been?" I disregarded her, dropped my pack, and focused on Lila. "Didn't expect you here. Thought you'd stay in Denver, counting your victories." Lila rose deliberately, like a trapped predator. "This isn't what you think. Mara called me here. She was worried, sick about you." I chuckled, a bitter sound echoing off the walls. Worried. Strange, that concern wasn't evident at Old Timber. Mara moved closer, palms raised. "Jace, I tried reaching you. You wouldn't respond. I was terrified you'd dash," she faltered, her gaze darting to my torso, as if searching for signs of the disease through my clothing. I interrupted her. "Save it. I'm through with deception. Sort out your own chaos. I'm leaving." I headed for the kitchen, seeking space, but Mara seized my arm, her grip unsteady. "Wait, please. We need to talk." I wrenched away, spinning around, and that's when I noticed it, the compass perched on the mantel, its damaged needle glinting in the lamplight. Rage surged through me. "You brought it here?" I lunged forward, grabbed it, the brass cold against my skin. Mara gasped. "Jace, don't dash," but I was beyond reason. I lifted it high and slammed it onto the table, glass splintering, bourbon splashing. The needle scattered across the floor, lifeless and small. Lila swore, leaping up, but I confronted them both, voice hard as granite. "I'm not your backup plan. I've got months remaining, maybe less, and I won't waste them watching your charade." Mara's eyes brimmed with tears, her hands quivering. "I never meant this. I love you, Jace. I just dashed, just what?" I snarled. Needed her more? Wanted something I couldn't provide? She recoiled, and Lila intervened, tone sharp. "Back off. She's been devastated since you pulled that gun." My attention snapped to her. "Good. Maybe she'll think twice next time." The room fell into a deafening silence, broken only by the steady drip of bourbon seeping into the rug. I retreated toward the door, my side erupting in agony, a searing flame spreading beneath my ribcage. "I'm heading to Bozeman," I announced flatly. "Got a small place there. It's mine. Don't try to find me. Don't call. We're finished." Mara's sob pierced the air, raw and shattered, but I refused to turn back. Snatching my keys, I strode out, the Jeep's headlights piercing the darkness like accusatory eyes. Questions about Lila's other connections, other entanglements in this web, flickered through my mind. But it didn't matter anymore. I was done fighting. The hour-long drive to Bozeman passed in a haze of towering pines and blinding oncoming traffic. I found my refuge, a sparse but tidy one-room cabin on the town's outskirts, and crumpled onto the cot, pain now a living, breathing entity within me. Come morning, I contacted the clinic demanding to halt treatments, requesting only pain medication. They protested, but I ended the call. My phone remained silent afterward, shutting out Mara's desperate pleas. Days melted together as I lay staring upward, replaying not the compass's destruction, but the years it had faithfully guided us, now tainted by her deceit. 7 days later, I awakened to thunderous rain pounding the roof, my body, racked with fever and tremors. Stumbling to the bathroom, I splashed cold water on my face, but a stranger gazed back from the mirror, emaciated, ashen, with hollow eyes. Agony struck like a twisting blade, and I collapsed, hitting the tiles with a dull thud. Through swimming vision, I heard it a soft but distinct knock. Dragging myself up, I lurched to the door, half expecting to find Mara, Lila, or death itself waiting in a raincoat. I pulled it open, rain slashing inside, but found only emptiness. The wind howled across the vacant porch, where a single fresh, small footprint marked the mud before dissolving in the downpour. Heart racing, I shut the door, the cabin's walls suddenly suffocating. Had they tracked me down? Was this some cruel game? The footprint seemed wrong. Too slim for Lila, too precise for Mara. Sinking onto the cot, I dry-swallowed 2 pills, their bottle rattling accusingly. The relentless rain continued its assault as I lay there, cancer consuming me gradually, while the mystery of that knock gnawed at me with greater urgency. Though alone, I remained trapped. Something or someone lurked out there, watching, and I lacked the strength to uncover the truth. The rain persisted through the night, hammering against the cabin's roof with the intensity of death knocking at a coffin. I remained motionless on the cot, the medication barely masking the inferno raging in my abdomen, when suddenly the world seemed to tilt beneath me. My lungs constricted, each breath becoming a desperate gasp, as I crashed onto the floor, sending the pill bottle spinning into darkness. My vision began to fade at the edges, but through the encroaching blackness, I detected the distinct sound of the door. Not the winds doing this time, but something more purposeful. A dark figure appeared, their boots making wet sounds against the wooden floor, and I realized this would be my end. Not the cancer after all, but whoever had left that mysterious footprint, returning to complete their task. I reached instinctively for my weapon, foolishly left in the truck, my fingers clutching empty space. I regained consciousness in a sterile environment, surrounded by white walls and the rhythmic beeping of monitors, medical tubes threading into my veins. A hospital room, presumably in Bozeman, though everything seemed hazy. My entire body ached like shattered stone, pain dulled beneath a morphine blanket. A gentle-voiced nurse hovered nearby. "You're fortunate," she said. "Some hikers discovered you. Call for help. Broken ribs, severe liver complications." I managed a weak nod before slipping back into unconsciousness. Upon my next awakening, Mara occupied the chair beside me, her complexion ashen, eyes swollen from tears. Lila was absent, just Mara, gripping my hand as if we might both drift away otherwise. "Jace," she whispered brokenly, having driven through the night after hearing the news. I studied this woman, once my everything, now unfamiliar in her rumpled clothing. "Why?" I managed, my throat parched. She struggled visibly. "I couldn't bear losing you this way. Not after everything." I wanted to laugh, but couldn't bear the pain. "You already did," I reminded her. "Back at Old Timber. With her." Her grip tightened as tears fell. "It was wrong." "Lila's gone now," I interrupted. "She deceived me too. You're identical." A movement outside caught my eye, a shadow passing the door's window, too swift to identify, but enough to send ice through my veins. Was Lila watching? Or someone else connected to that muddy print? Mara remained oblivious, consumed by remorse. I failed you, Jace. Let me stay help you. Please. I withdrew my hand with deliberate finality. No. Keep your sympathy. Live your life. Find someone who belongs there. Her sob shattered the quiet, but I shut my eyes, finished. Hours later, the nurse returned, her expression grim and tight-lipped. Words weren't necessary. I sensed it, felt the inevitable descent beginning. Mara had departed, and I drifted into unconsciousness beneath the mechanical symphony of medical equipment, solitary yet strangely at peace. Death arrived silently, a gentle release from life's tempest. In the aftermath, Mara's life unraveled completely. When whispers about her relationship with Lila circulated through the company, she resigned, her reputation irreparably damaged. There was no divorce proceedings. My death had precluded that necessity. But she sold our home, retreating to an obscure town in Idaho, embracing a life of simplicity and solitude. Lila continued her corporate ascent, though the scandal's shadow persistently followed her, an indelible mark she could never erase. Our deceptions ultimately destroyed us all, sending me to my grave, condemning them to hollow existences, their capacity for trust as broken as that fateful compass. Here's the truth revealed. Truth cuts, but lies bury you. I grasped this wisdom too late, pursuing illusions rather than confronting reality. Our journey concludes here,